Chapter 9.4e, Choosing a Solution Method. The table shows 5 methods for solving quadratic equations. While there is no one correct method, some method may be easier to use than others. Some advantages and disadvantages of each method are shown. The first method is factoring. Advantages: straightforward when equation can be factored easily. Disadvantage of this method is that sometimes some equations are not factorable. Graphing: can easily see numbers of solutions. Use when approximate solutions are sufficient. Can use a graphing calculator or Desmos. Disadvantage for this method, graphing, is that may not give exact solutions. Next method is using square roots, used to solve equation of such that x squared equals d, where you have a square term and on the other side this is a constant. Disadvantage is can only be used for certain equations. Next is completing the square. Best used when a equals 1. So the starting number, which is the coefficient of x squared, should be 1 and b is even. The disadvantage of this one that it may involve difficult calculations. Quadratic formula can be used for any quadratic equation. So the advantage of this formula that it can be used for any type of equation. It gives exact solution as well. But the disadvantage for this one, it takes a little bit time. So it takes time to do the calculation for this method. The first example is solving a quadratic equation using different method. Solve x squared plus 8x plus 12 equals 0 using two methods. The method 1 is solving by graphing. So to solve by graphing, you're going to recognize A, B, and C. And step number 1 is to find the axis of symmetry. So axis of symmetry, that is x equals negative b over 2a. So that's going to be negative 8 times over 2 times 1. And that's going to be 4, negative 4. You're going to solve for y. To find the vertex, you need a y as well. So that is x squared plus 8x plus 12. And that's going to be negative 4 squared plus 8 times negative 4 plus 12. And it's 16 minus 32 plus 12. And that is negative 16 plus 12, that's negative 4. So the vertex is going to be negative 4 comma 4. So after you plot the vertex, that is negative 4 comma 4, you're going to follow the pattern that is 1 1 2 4 3 9. When you follow the pattern that is 1 over up 1 2 over up 4, you're going to get the points negative 2 and negative 6 as your x-intercept. So the x-intercepts are negative 2 comma 0 and negative 6 comma 0. Method 2 is solving by factoring. So you got here is x squared plus 8x plus 12, and on the top you got 12, and on the bottom is 8. You're looking for two numbers. When you multiply, you get 12, and when you add, you get 8. So those numbers are 6 and 2. So the factors are x plus 6 times x plus 2 equals 0. Put them equal to 0 one by one and get the x value, and that's going to be negative 6 comma x equals negative 2. Example number 2 and 3, choosing a method. Example number 2 is solve x squared minus 10x equals 1. Using any method of your choice, you're going to solve x squared minus 10x equals 1. So the method that I'm going to recommend to use is completing the square. Why completing the square? Because in this one, the x squared terms are already separated, and the constant it is already on one side. So you're going to explain your choice of method. Choice of method is x squared minus 10x equals 1. So the x terms are already isolated, so it is easier to use the completing the square. You're going to rewrite this, and here you're going to add negative b over 2 square, and that's going to be negative 10 over 2 square, which is negative 5 square, or just in other words 5 square, and that's going to be 25, that you're going to add on both sides. So the equation is x squared minus 10x plus 1 plus, so you're going to have here is 25, add on both sides, and you got here is x minus 5 squared equals 26. You're going to take a square root on both sides, so what you get here is plus or minus 26. Square and square root cancel. X minus 5 equals plus or minus 26. Add 5. So x equals 5 plus or minus square root 26 is your answer. For example 3, you're going to use a quadratic formula because it's going to have a number in the front is 2, and it has big numbers, so it is easier to solve the quadratic equation, quadratic formula. So x equals minus b plus or minus b square minus 4ac 4ac all over 2a. I understand the calculations are big, but if there is a number in the front, it's difficult to find the factors and it's difficult to do the completing the square one. So what you got here is 13 plus or minus 13 square is 169, plus when you multiply 4 times 2 times 24 is 192 divided by 4. Because this is negative and this is negative, so that number should be positive. Now we're going to add these two together. So what you got here is x equals 13 plus or minus square root of 361 divided by 4, and you got two answers. One is x equals 13 plus square root 361 over 4, comma x equals 13 negative square root 361 over 4. So for you, try problem number 1. The method we prefer is factoring. And if factoring doesn't work, then we can think about other methods. But right now we are going to try the factoring because it looks easy. On the top you have 8, and on the bottom is the center term, that is negative 6. The two numbers you're looking for are going to be negative 4 and negative 2. When you multiply, you get 8. When you add or subtract them together, it's negative 6. Factors are x minus 4 times x minus 2 equals 0. And then you put them equal to 0 one by one to solve for x. So x equals 4 and x equals 2 is your answer. For number 2, I would think is either a factoring, not by the cross method, by the GCF. So the GCF of these two numbers is x. So I would take the factor the GCF, that is going to be x outside. Inside you have x minus 14 equals 0. Put them equal to 0 one by one. So you got x equals 0 and x equals 14. Question number 3, we're going to use the factoring method. I made a cross where on the top number is negative 20 and on the bottom is 8. So the two number when you multiply you got negative 20, and when you add them you 8 is going to be 10 minus 2. So it's x plus 10 times x minus 2 equals 0. Set the factors equal to 0 one by one. And you got x equals negative 10 and x equals 2. So that's going to be your answer. For number 4, I'm going to use a quadratic formula. So it's a quadratic equation. I'm going to use the quadratic formula for that. So a is 2, b is 9, and c is negative 3. You apply the quadratic formula, negative b plus or minus b squared minus 4ac over 2a. So plug it into the formula. I'm going to get negative 9 plus or minus 81 plus 24, and that's negative 9 plus or minus square root of 105 over 4. So you have two answers, one with the plus sign and one with the negative sign inside.